Last year, I had set a goal. I haven't had a vehicle for 2 years, so what I do is I ride my bicycle, and understood. I understood about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, that I required social interaction. Um, However, being that I was experiencing all the things I was experiencing within myself, this social interaction had to take the form that enabled and empowered me to continue to experience what was going on within me so that I could have the realization of the lesson learned. And that needed a special kind of social interaction. It couldn't just be any kind of social interaction. And I tell you that I had a lot of opportunities to socially interact with a lot of different uh, arenas in life. And they weren't all peaceful, like the word arena means. A lot of them were just conflict ridden. And I had enough conflict going on within myself. Uh, Being permanently disabled, uh, the social interaction requires an effort on my part, and being on a fixed income, it uh, I had my limits. You know, a friend of mine said, "Well, you could go to Toastmasters, but it requires money. You got to go out to dinner. You got to pay for your dinner, and you know that kind of thing." That would have been fun if I could have afforded it. However, it was far too structural for me. There was too much structure, and I found that going to coffee shops uh, enabled the freedom and the levity, the lightheartedness, the undirectedness that I was seeking. Uh, but being that I was going through a great deal of what I was going through within, a lot of the topics that you see, in a spontaneous situation like a coffee shop where you just meet new people, there are very few expectations, and you basically have to take what comes. Uh, People can come and go, they can leave as they please. And so if they want to be there, it's pretty damn genuine because they could go do anything with their life. They don't have to be there. They're not invested in some accomplishment, some goal. And my goal was just to relate to people uh, and discover what they're about, and in the process, unfold myself. But back to this depressive uh, experience. Um, Depression enables me to confront aspects of myself, and then I have to make a decision about it. I have to decide, okay, what do I want to do about this? And I've had troubles with taking my depression too seriously, which reflects taking myself too seriously, taking my own sufferings, my own difficulties and challenges too personally, too seriously. And just the canned statements of go help other people, do some service, get out of yourself, wasn't enough. There was something calling me, some message that was needing for me to become aware of. So I respect feeling states and depressive states as well as high um, positive emotion and feeling states as well. But I've come not to take any of them too seriously, too literally, too personally. And I went through this growth period where, well, if I am not my feelings, if I am not my emotional states, then what am I? And this was another level of the self-discovery that, there is something beyond me, beyond my experience. And the emotional states that become too much, whether they're positive or negative, because there can be too much positivity, were a path, a way for me to discover something beyond them, beyond myself. I happened to run into a guy who incorporated a great deal of astrology into his life. He happened to be highly superstitious. So he also had this tendency to take his own experience too personally, too literally, too seriously. And so we had an affinity with each other. But the overall idea that I integrated, that I learned about astrological concepts and philosophies, is that we can be influenced by outside forces that are not necessarily, that are not conscious to us. We're not aware that we're being influenced. And, this is, advertisement relies on this, They want to activate us in such a way as to get us to buy their product so that our behavior changes to their will, generally speaking. And then I came across some other perspectives, and they got me thinking about, it can be quite illuminating to discover that there are influences influencing us that are outside of us, that make us believe that we are experiencing these things genuinely as ourselves, but really they're manipulations of forces outside of ourselves. And that this can be seen as fatalistic, as the term used was determinism. Like we're born into a civilization with certain laws, and we have to conform to those laws. And there's nothing we can do about it. It is fate. And we have to live and die by those rules. And this was very interesting to me because I have really tested the boundaries in my life.